Hey everybody, my name's Gabe Giannis, and if I hated you, you would know. Hey, so I got my room set up so that it's more like a little bit of a set. I don't know, looking at the background, I got something playing in the back, so that's a little distracting or whatever, but I don't know, just thought it'd be cool, fun to do. So this is my new setup for now. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and if you see something that you're curious about, feel free to ask, etc., etc. So anyway, yeah, excuse me. This episode, I'm going to just be talking about zines on top of zines on top of zines. So I went to Greeley Zine Fest this week, or last weekend. That was really, really fun. So I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to go through and like actually film some of the zines that I picked up and just kind of talk about them and the people that I met doing that. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'll do a little bit of an update on the phone zines and how those are going. And then, yeah, that'll be pretty much the extent of what I talk about this week. Yeah, I'm just really jazzed about like the medium in and of itself. Always kind of have been, always I think will be. No interview again this week, working on some stuff. I have one coming up next weekend, so I'll be able to put that on this next issue. But yeah, until then, I'll be back in a little bit. Yeah, so this weekend I went to the Greeley Zine Fest. I had reached out to my friend Rob about something totally different, and he had said, "Oh, hey, by the way, this is going on." He works at the library where it was happening at the Link Library here in Greeley, and yeah, I got to go. So I'd been working on the phone zines for a couple of weeks, and actually, in my excitement to do them, I got. So they go really fast, right? Because it's just basically one sheet of paper, and if you put any kind of like, decoration on it via cut and paste or anything like that, then it takes up a lot of space on the page too. And I'm going more for design and fun than anything else, so why wouldn't I just get on with that? So I was going through them really fast. So like I had started last like Monday or whatever, and put one on my phone. And by the time the Zine Fest had rolled around, I had made 2 like individual issues that were just like my thoughts and stuff like that. But then a separate one that's just like phone zine with like some writing prompts, very much like the thing that Struthless made in his video, just something to like engage other people so that they can do the same thing. And I just kind of passed on the what this is for is like breaking up the cycle of like doom scrolling and like constantly unlocking your phone and staring at it. And I have been noticing that it's been helping some with that kind of stuff. I'm way more like, I use it kind of as like an unlocking mechanism, and it has curtailed a lot of my phone usage, but I'm going to talk more about that later. So in my excitement, like of making them so quickly and getting through them so fast, I got to this point where I was like, I don't want to stop in the middle of the day to like set one of these up. Like if I wanted to design something that's like cohesive, like across like, all the pages of it, which is something that, I mean, personally, I'm pretty interested in doing. So, I went out of my way to make a bunch of them like ahead of time. And when I talk about like kind of the update overall, like I'll cut in some footage of that. So, I got really excited about that. I went to, Kinko's or FedEx or whatever it is now and made a bunch of photocopies, put together, I think I basically put together 25 of the blank ones that are just kind of like the create your own phone zine. And then I want to say like a dozen or so of the 2 that I had made myself. And then I had a few issues left over of the first issue of If I Hated You, You Would Know, which is how basically the zine that this YouTube was created from, which is about the whole issue is just about Genesis Paorage and Throbbing Gristle and Psychic TV and the Temple of Psychic Youth and stuff. Eventually I should probably scan them and put them up somewhere so that if you guys want to enjoy them, you can. But I had a few copies of that left over, so I brought those with me, and I brought the new stuff that I had made, and just kind of had a situation where I could just hand out whatever I had. Like, I was not interested in like any kind of sales or stuff, and like I was really excited about like doing trades, right? Like a copy of my zine for a copy of your zine sort of thing. So I was super excited when the first table that I encountered, I just kind of, I do this weird thing where at conventions or like events, I walk like all the way to the back, and then I do like a loop, before I like stop to really talk to anybody or like purchase anything. I didn't really do that this time, but I always have this habit of just like walking straight to the back. So I walked straight to the back, and the first table that I see is just plastered with signs that say trade only, right? And everything that's at their table was trade. And so I was able to, I also brought a sandwich bag full of stickers, because I just had like a bunch of random stickers, and I had it in my mind that maybe I could trade this for like a zine or something like that. Maybe somebody will take, 6 stickers for a copy of their issue or whatever. So they did. That was super fun. I gave them everything that I had, some stickers. They gave me a couple zines, and I've read them subsequently, and we'll talk about them when I get to that portion where I'm just going through some of them and showing them to you. But it was really cool that like immediately, like I felt like I was in that kind of like place where like I feel comfortable. I am not like a capitalism enjoyer, right? Like I've never had like a lot of money. I've never worked in professions where I can make a lot of money even. I know that there's like celebrity chefs and like cooks and stuff like that make tons of cash, but like I worked for a lot of years in that industry and just really never got above the like $15 to $16 an hour range, which is like now minimum wage, like where I live, So I've always had like notions that like in most situations, like if you really need something that somebody else has, like you should be able to find a way to like figure something out, even if you don't have like money, right? Like trading work for work, trading, items for items, like things that you have for things that you need kind of thing. There's probably going to be a lot of noise in the background on this video, by the way, because they're building a patio next door. But I just like that idea of like trading and bartering and coming to like consensus and cooperating with each other to find ways through, as opposed to like butting our heads against, you don't have like the currency that I need, because the only way we can survive is if we have the paper, right? And it just doesn't make sense to me. Like so much of what I have, like I found for cheap or for free or like has been given to me. Like I'm a scrounger, right? Like, I'm belong to a class of people that's always had to find a way to get by, but I also like interesting things, and I like stuff that's hard to find, and I'm interested in stuff that oftentimes can be considered like collectible or artistic, right? And so instead of blunt force traumaing my way through it by making a shitload of money, like I either make it myself or I find a way to find it cheap, or I trade with somebody that for something cool that I have. I grew up a comic book collector, but in a time when you still like rolled up your comic books and shoved them in your back pocket. You bought them at the grocery store. They weren't as collectible, right? Like the idea of bags and boards really became a big thing when I was in like high school. But when I was like in grade school and middle school and stuff, we would trade comic books. We would trade Garbage Pail Kid cards. We would trade everything. Like, I would come to school with some of my cool Transformers, and my friend would come to school with his Transformers, and we'd swap for the day, right? Like everything was kind of like, it was yours, but also like could be used mutually. You could ask your friend to borrow a toy because you wanted to play with it for a while. Nobody thought that was weird, right? You hear the old like kind of like, almost like vaudevillian joke of like, I loaned my neighbor tools and he's had them for 15 years or whatever. But like, yeah, right? Like if my neighbor needed a lawnmower and I have one and he's right next door and like maybe he needs it this weekend because his is broken and then he forgets to give it back to me and maybe it's over there for a couple weeks and then I'm like, oh crap, I need my lawnmower, and I just go over and ask for it back. Like, it's not weird, or it wasn't weird, but now we're so like hyper individualized. We're so like focused on like singular pursuits, my art, my this, my that, you know. So going into like this space where like I know that the people there are going to largely be creative, they're going to have something that they want to say that they're like so passionate about, they can't be bothered to like say it within the confines of like regular societal structures, right? Like they don't have the time to like write an academic paper. They're not interested in, you know, making a video essay about it. They just want to say it right now. So they put pen to paper and they get going. You know, like that kind of immediacy, like that desire, that openness to like engage with ideas, because like zines are like person to person, right? Like they're a very close thing. You know, we talk about parasocial relationships with like YouTubers and things like that, but a zine really is you putting yourself out there. Like no matter what you're making, like even if it's just like music reviews or, you know, movies or something like that, like you're really saying something about yourself, the things that are important to you, the things that drive you, and like what makes, you know, stuff meaningful to you. You're really digging deep and like being very vulnerable when you're presenting a zine. And a lot of the times that vulnerability, on top of being like emotionally vulnerable, you're doing it face to face. Like all of these people I talk to, and they know what's inside that zine and that I'm going to go and read it. Like, and they know that I'm going to engage with it and maybe even reach out to them afterwards, because a lot of people put like their contact information and stuff. They want you to engage them with the conversation. And going into that space, knowing that, and have my first like encounter be like, not only is this like, the only way that this is transactional is if the transaction is meaningful to both of us, right? It's not just me handing money to get like a commodity. It's not just me getting a product or a good. It's someone saying, I'm presenting you with something valuable that I've created, so I would like something valuable in return. But not like valuable monetarily, like valuable of interest, right? So some of the things that they were collecting were just little collectibles, like a liquid IV, you know, the little pouches to pour in your water. People have started giving them keys that they don't know what they go to, right? So things that are just interesting, of interest, right? Like creating something curious that then the person who's received those gifts can like turn into subsequent art. And we'll talk about that in the next section too. So like there's this drive, this passion, this movement, this ethos of like creating and doing it yourself and engaging community and putting yourself out there and reaching out to other people and like intentionally trying to find ways to like communicate, right? Like at its heart, the zine is about communicating something important to somebody else, right? Or something that's important to you to somebody else. And it doesn't have to be important really to anybody else. And I think there's a lot of freedom and there's a lot of beauty in that. And it's genuinely like one of my favorite mediums. And that's why when I think about the YouTube channel, when I think about this place, I think of it like a zine, because it has no real motive, right? It has no real goal. It has no real purpose. It's not a product. I'm not selling you anything. Like it's literally just about me getting passionate about the things that I'm passionate about and sharing that with you in the hopes that you reach out and connect with me, right? That we have this cool conversation. Even if the start of the conversation is, I think zines are dumb, like I want to know why you think that. I'm not going to just assume that it's because you're a big fat loser, you know, and that I don't appreciate, you know, you don't appreciate art the way I do or whatever the fuck. Like, I'm not interested in any of that. I just want to have these good conversations. I want to talk with the trades only zine guy and be like, hey, what are some of the things that you've gotten? And them say, not just, here's a table full of cool things that I've gotten, but here's something that I've created about that, you know. There's just so much, and there's so much like width, right? Like there's so much, we talk about like breadth and depth, right? Like, so the width of something and the depth of something, you know, things can be like very big and surface level. You see it a lot in like video games where like the map is like 10 times the size of the United States, but the things that you're doing over and over again are like all the same, right? You're doing the same like 10 things just over and over again for each region to free it or whatever, you know. So it's very wide but very shallow, right? Then there's things with like lots of depth, really focused things. Think any really deeply profound book, like tomes on philosophy and things like that, you know. Hegel, very deep, right? Spinoza, really deep. Like there's a lot to it, and maybe it's not like in a ton of pages, like it probably is a lot of dense words, but like more than anything, it's not about how much they said, it's about like the, you know, the weight of what they said. Zining is like both, right? It can be about literally anything, and it can go so deep in such a small space, but it can also be so surface level and fun while also being like dense tomes, right? Like things like I've seen like, you know, 100-page like zines that are personal zines that are like wall to wall, just somebody's handwriting. You know, that's a lot of width. You know, there's a lot there. So there's just so much scope and space to it as like an art form. It's like such a creative situation that allows for us to like not just engage in something that we're passionate about, but to like also help other people engage in it, but also just help other people communicate with each other, create those like real connections. I had a really interesting conversation about how like the internet has really created like an unstable situation when it comes to a lot of like conspiracy and a lot of like really intense like hard line politics, like in either direction, like to the point of like violence kind of hard line thinking. Is this notion of like interconnectedness being like going too far or like connecting too much, like that some of the benefits of like our interconnectedness are also some of the drawbacks, right? So again, the same time period I'm talking about, like the 80s and 90s, where I'm like rolling up comic books in the back of my, you know, pocket. You also could like buy Soldier of Fortune magazine, and it would teach you how to kill a man, and like, you know, where you could get a job as like as a Blackwater consultant or whatever. But to get that information, you had to write a letter, you had to send it off, you had to wait for it to come back. You know, there's a guy named Saxon, maybe Saxton, but he wrote these books like The Poor Man's James Bond, or like these magazines called The Survivalist that have like all of this like survival information and like doomsday stuff in them, but also like a ton of like anti-Semitism and like super white supremacist stuff. So that kind of information, like it existed and it was out there, but like the number of people that it was connecting with was so minuscule that there was like no way for them to like cohesively like gather in like this really like psychologically and like emotionally negative like spiral of like how do I find the people that I hate and destroy them, right? If you can only put together like 3 or 4 people like that, it's tricky. It's tricky to like create a movement, create an uprising, create something like of true significant violence. You know, in those spheres, right? Real violence has been around and is largely perpetuated by like church and state. That has largely always existed and probably will largely never go away. But what I'm talking about is like just the real extremist violence, right? Is the circle of people that I'm thinking about. So like with the internet, they can create connections with like much wider networks of people. And because of that, it like diffuses in this really weird way where some people will take it way more seriously because they see the numbers, and some people will take it way less seriously because it's just on the internet and it's a joke. And there's no real way to tell the difference between those two things. And so when you encounter it like online, you don't know, is this meant to be funny? Is this meant to be serious? And also more people are connecting with this than would have ever connected with, you know, Saxon back in like the 90s, right? Because those were all like mail order, and you heard about them through rumor and innuendo, and somebody passed XYZ onto XYZ. It's like tape trading in wrestling too. Like, you know, you didn't hear about the ECW because it wasn't on TV here, but some guy had like a bootleg of a bootleg of a bootleg of a VHS. And then there was like that one dude that you worked with that was really into like hardcore wrestling, right? So like those kind of things, those networks that like had to be built up like person to person, and so they evolved super slowly and didn't get very dangerous. Like those are escalated and sped up, and then like half of the people just think it's a joke. Zining is like the opposite of that. It like breaks that down. Like everything is like person to person. Very rarely is like somebody going to pass. I mean, and even if they do, if I pass a zine on to somebody else, it comes with a story, right? Like it's not like, oh, you should read this. I mean, it might be, but that'd be weird, right? Because the reason you should read this is probably just as important as reading it itself. So because it's not seeking to make a big network of as many people as possible to commodify them and find a way to like just spread, it's just about making a connection for a moment with a person to like communicate. It's like the full breakdown of that. Right? It's like the opposite of social media. It takes me a while. Like I'm reading some of this stuff and I'll show you more of it. But like, you know, it's not big type print, but it's a lot of it. Right? And that's like one of many that I'm going to look at today. So you have to invest. Like both of you have to invest. The reader has to invest. The creator has to invest. Everybody that's a participant in it has probably communicated on some level, because like zines don't just magically appear in your hands. You either read about them in another zine, or you went to an event, or somebody handed it to you at a concert. Like these things come with stories of their own. So yeah, being in those spaces, it fills me with so much energy, and it makes me want to do this more. It makes me want to do that more. Like I've done tons and tons of art over the last couple weeks, like that you'll have the pleasure of seeing some of as like B-roll, and I've been live streaming my art again. So it's just like one of those things where it's made me so excited that I wanted to share it with you. And so I'm dedicating like this whole episode to it. And you're going to see a bunch of cool zines that came from the Greeley Zine Fest. I've signed up for a table at the Denver Zine Fest, so hopefully I can get into that and be able to share more of this, and probably steal that idea, the trade idea, right? And continue Struthless's idea, because that's like one of the things that's great about zines is I can say I got these ideas from other people and I'm incorporating them in what I do because it's so cool. It's such an awesome idea. Why in the fuck would I not do that? Right? And it's not plagiarism because I get to say, you know, the librarians person trades only idea. And I know they're not the only one doing that. Struthless, Phone Zine, got that idea from them. I know they're not the only person doing that, right? There's plenty of people doing that. So, yeah. Let's talk about some zines. I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So, let's, this doesn't need to be an ad for Topo Chico. I am going to get a swig though. We're just going to leave that in for fun. That was just for you, Topo Chico, for free. So I'm going to talk about a bunch of the zines that I got at Greeley Zine Fest. So the first couple are from an artist named August Moss. I don't remember the names of everybody, and as is the nature of zines, some of them are like made anonymously, and so there's not really a way for me to figure out who did make them. But if I do know, I will tell you, and then I will be sure to show any kind of like, things like, social media stuff. But I also do want to point out that this entire section is like probably like, I guess viewer discretion is advised is probably the best way to put it. Like, there will be a wide range of subjects discussed in all of these zines. Some of them would obviously get a video demonetized, but because I don't make money doing this, it doesn't matter. So, first one, this is August Moss. This is Hand Poke Colorado, a collection of hand poke tattooers based in Colorado. So, I like this one. Sorry, excuse me. I like this one. These hand poke tattoos, like basically the like kind of what you think of as like traditional style of like stick and poke, where you're like taking ink and then just like poking it under the skin, is really cool. And we don't think a lot of the time, I don't think about how like really artistic and creative like a lot of that kind of simple stuff can be. Be sure to take some time on each page so you can also see the ads for these different artists. One thing that's really interesting about it too is it allows for like stippling, right? So like, especially like if you look in this picture right here, a lot of the shading around the flower is stippling, and it's like, that's kind of my preferred drawing style when I draw, as opposed to like the paper mache and painting and stuff I do. When I draw, I really like doing stippling. So here's August's little rundown about who August is. Sorry, I'm still trying to get used to the whole it's upside down. Please just focus. Focus. Oh, that's very annoying. Sorry, this is kind of new to me, so. Boom. There we go. I'll edit some of the dumb stuff out so you guys can see that. All right. And then this is the next one from August. This is called Brown Bird. It's an art editorial magazine. And like some of these zines, the pages are done in pretty glossy paper. So I've been really kind of struggling with how to like light this a lot of the time, because some of the pages are like really glary. But this one basically is just like a very cool, like, just meditation on several different artists that August really likes, starting with Susan Wick, right? And just talking about like the feelings and emotions that it elicits. Moss talks at first about how they really enjoy criticism when it comes to like art history, which is something that I am also a big fan of, but wanted to like kind of share these not just in like a critical way, but also in the why is this important to me, which I think is one of the really powerful things about like zines, is that it allows you to engage in literally whatever it is that you are interested in, like whatever it is that you find like value in. So her short introductions to these different artists, they give two opportunities, right? They give Moss the opportunity to share what they enjoy and be passionate about, but they also give you the opportunity to learn about something new, a new artist, a new, musician, a new whatever it is, like depending on the, the nature of whatever it is that you're reading. So that I believe is going to be the same contact information, which hopefully that is big enough on screen there. All right, so this is the trades only. So these were made by Matthew Murray. Let's see if I can get it to do it again. Ooh, this is going to take a lot of editing, I think. There we go. All right, that's how we're going to do it. So this is trades only, things you can trade for zines instead of money. And this is one of the things I was talking about, like taking the things that have been traded for the zines and then creating zines out of it, finding new ways to like artistically express like what you're doing, right? So you gem stamps, cool rocks, other zines. So, and then another one that's just some of the things that people have traded to me for zines, which I really enjoy. Coupons, I like the poker chip, like a single earring, a broken keychain. Like these kind of like little goofy art projects are fun because they like kind of connect us to, these are the sort of things that you probably have like chilling out in your pocket. They're the sort of things that I have chilling out in like a bag or a pocket or a keychain, just random little different things that, you know, have some value to you because you've kept it for whatever reason, but it also allows you to give it to someone else for value, especially at a zine thing. So again, by the same writer, this one is Games on My Shelf I Have Not Played Yet, which I can really relate to as a video game enjoyer. It's one of those things where you end up like starting with a lot of, you think to yourself, like, I'm going to get this game, I'm going to go through it, it's going to be awesome, but like sometimes games don't like fully capture your attention and you end up just kind of halfways doing it or never finishing it, or maybe even picking it up and not starting it. And that's kind of what these are about. So the to play things. So I like this one because it also shows like the way that zines can be very different. Like these are very text dense. They're super funny. The writing in them is very like, feels very familiar. Like it is definitely gaming culture, like, but in a much more lighthearted, less serious way than I think we see a lot of the time. But there's a lot of fun things in here. There's also an idea for a book club that's in these that I don't know that I fully understand, like the way their podcast works, but it gave me an idea that would be like a fun way to do a book club where you have like random genres and like you pick the book and then come back and like do a report on it. So I don't know, might be something that I approach some friends to do as like maybe even issues of If I Hated You, You Would Know, because it's all about like doing something fun, different, creative, and having a good time, right? So not the most exciting to look at, but definitely tons of good stuff. And then this one is the Games on My Shelf I Have Not Finished Yet, which I also like can much more closely relate to. I'm kind of like a video game nomad. Like I'll get started on a game, but very rarely do I actually finish games. I have a tendency to just play a game until I'm done with it. And there's kind of like this sense that I have that I'm like no longer enjoying like the game loop or something fun. Also, Parasite Eve is in here. Absolutely loved that game when I was younger. Have no idea if it holds up. But there's like this, I'm very quick to like move forward from a game if I'm not just like really taken by it. And what I think is really interesting is I think that's because games have become just like such a tool for self-distraction more than anything, where I'm thinking to myself, how can I just make this bit of time full of something that's not just like my thoughts and aloneness, you know? And I don't mean like when I'm around my family or anything. I just mean like, you know, that weird time of day when you just don't have anything to do and you're just kind of all by yourself. Like, and instead I've been filling that with a lot of art, which has been making me think a lot about my PlayStation and stuff. But it's fixed, and a big part of me wants to like play Crimson Desert or make some like video game content for you guys, and I might do some of that stuff, but I might not. I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot. So this is from Drink Decaf, and then they also have a webtoon called Briargate. So there's, come on. I don't know. Hopefully that'll show up good enough. There's a WrestleTalk QR code joke in here somewhere. All right. Hopefully that's good enough. But so this is the 2026 sketchbook from Drink Decaf. This is pretty simple. I mean, it's simple in the sense that it's just drawings. It's literally just a sketchbook, some of the characters and like ideas that he's been working on. Right, I really love these moons and treescapes. I don't know if it's like a ship or a moon or what, but they remind me a lot of Mobius's art. If you're unfamiliar with Mobius, he's a French comic book artist that did this series called In Call that I really like. Did a lot of work with Alejandro Jodorowsky, who is one of my favorite filmmakers. Genuinely, like, Santa Sangre is like one of my favorite, just like surreal, bizarre movies. So, but yeah, really cool sketchbook from Drink Decaf. And then this one is Goblin Time. I really liked this one because it's just like drawings of goblins and they're named. I like that this is the Bum Artisan, you know, that kind of thing. Just the goofy like sense of like goblins that are like destructive machines. I believe they're characters for one of his webcomics. If they're not, they should be, because they are very cute and they look like they would be a lot of fun. Kind of has a little bit of a Rat Queens feel to me. Like artistically, it's just kind of goofy and silly, but like it feels like it could have the potential to get like super chaotic. So I don't know. I really like it. If you haven't read Rat Queens, you should check that out too. So good stuff. Really fun to look at. And then this is Briargate, the webtoon that they already have going. Like it says, Briargate is the story of Autumn who finds herself suddenly in a magical land. And just kind of like her friends, a little bit of comic stuff. So this is one thing too that's really cool about zines is that they float through like several different kind of like genres of print, right? So, you know, we've looked at one that was largely like emulating like a magazine, right? So like August Moss's art criticism feels like a magazine would, right? Like it's got pictures and articles and captions, that kind of thing. And then we look at what was their name? You look at Matthews, there's a lot of drawings in a couple of them. They're just kind of little goofy art books. And then the other two are like really dense, like almost like books or like, you know, journals, notes, those kind of things. And then here we are with the Drink Decaf stuff. And this is like comic books, right? Like a lot of this is just straight up comic book, like comic book style art, comic book like framing. There's that QR code again so that you can catch them. Right. And then we move on to something that's like completely different. Right. So this beat up, beat down, beat around the bush, tittering birds bear witness, watching, wailing, wandering, what's next? I think that's the title of this. I'm not really sure, but it's a collection of poetry. Most of them just titled with initials. Right. All of them are like these really intense like looks at things like bodily, like autonomy, what it feels like to just not really understand who you are mentally and physically. They're about pain, they're about longing, they're about hurt, right? And they're a lot of just like really strong and traumatic like moments, right? There's also this long piece that's just about the state of politics in the United States now, but written in like a poetic manner, right? Not necessarily just like a screed, like a, you know, a journal article, like a, like a op-ed. It's like really said in a way that you can tell the person is conveying like their heart into it, right? And then another poem that's really about like ICE and like the politics of like immigration and what it means to like why we have like these double standards, right? With policing agencies. It's really good. It's really just hard and dark and looking inwardly about pain and vulnerability and what it means to like really experience like hard feelings. And that's like not always that's not always the easiest thing to like do in a medium, and it's not necessarily meant as like entertainment, right? Like a lot of what makes zines great is it's not always like entertainment. It's not always meant for you to be fun. Like a lot of it is meant to convey an emotion, to do art, to convey a sense of like of connection with someone that you may not know. The next four I'm going to go through. I'm really bummed that I don't remember this person's name because they were absolutely phenomenal to talk to. And the stuff that they've created is just, it's been really good to look at. I have a kid that is trans that is constantly fluctuating with like their sexuality, and like while I talk about, or not their sexuality, their gender, while I talk about it, I'll flip through these. And these books are all about that. They're all about transgenderism. They're all about the philosophies behind it. They're all about how we like the psychology, how we emotionally deal with it. This first one is just like very basic, like what it means, like how it feels, just kind of digging into like some of the nuance between transsexual and transgender, and kind of looking at transsexual being more about the arousal of pretending to be of the opposite gender versus like having a direct sense that you are the opposite gender. I'm gonna let the cat out. So like the nuance is there, something that I've never really thought about, never really even contemplated, right? It's not something that I really had to interact with, right? It wasn't a part of my culture growing up. It was just it's just become part of our culture now in a way that I think is powerful and important, but that I still have difficulty with always understanding or engaging with because I didn't grow up in a way that expressed that. So here's some definitions. Here's some things that like really help me understand like the basics of like the language that we're using to talk about it. And the best part is a lot of this comes from like journal articles and books. There's citations, there's ways to like look these ideas up. Another thing is that I think is super fascinating about zines is a lot of the time when they're handwritten, you start to understand a couple things. You start to understand how, like, first of all, you start to understand people's handwriting. You notice that when they write the word they wipe their T's and H's together in like a way that seems a little different to you. But you can also see kind of their emotional state sometimes. There's moments in these where things are crossed out or handwriting gets less precise when you can tell that the subject that they're talking about is more intense, probably personally, I would assume. So this one is really interesting because this one is all about how our nomenclature like really others transgendered people by talking about them as, talking about homosexual people basically as just that, right? Like as soon as you've chosen to call yourself transgender or homosexual, you are immediately put into a place where that is defining you. And so that is like in that moment a choice. Like you are that person, but it's not like you can hide like your skin tone, like your melanin level, but you can mask if you are trans or queer. And there's this sensibility that for some reason, because you're not in the majority, because you're not in the norm, then you are for sure the weird one, right? And as the weird one, that makes you like the outcast. And if you want to live your truth as like a trans person or a queer person, you effectively do have to make that choice to live outwardly, right? And that invites a whole mess of other issues. So this was a really powerful thing to read, right? The risk that you take just expressing who you are as a person is something really, really difficult. And like being able to wrap your head around that, whether you're trans or not, is tricky. Also, these books, the collage style of them, the art of them is just absolutely wonderful. Like I love the way they're laid out. It's very creative in a way that my brain does not think, and I love that. This one is about being abject, right? Which is like this sense that something is scary and disgusting and horrific to us because of its other nature. Also, the motif of Eyes of the Dragon from Stephen King is really kind of cool through all of this. And I didn't notice it flipping through the first time, but this is the one of the front pages from that book. It makes me want to read Eyes of the Dragon and see if there's a connection there. But this idea that like not only do you feel abject, you feel like othered, as though you are so fully outside that you're not even human, but other people have a tendency to view you that way because you are in this abnormal state, right? You are a subject of abjectification, which I thought was really, 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 really fascinating. It's so hard to think about how difficult it must be to feel like everybody that looks at you is looking at you in a way that is negative, right? So this is the thing that I talk to Cody the most about, I think. This idea that by choosing to live your way outwardly, you're immediately inviting people to question, right? And this is the sentence that really grabbed me. People around us urgently find the need to know why we have rejected their natural, normal, ordinary way of being in favor of something weird, disgusting, unnatural, or queer. Like, I just can't understand why someone would do that to themselves. Like, there's that sense of like separation is so difficult, right? And I think we have a tendency to say, find a way to not feel separate, find a way to fit in, to blend in, to assimilate to like the norms that are around you. But the reality is that's so impossible sometimes. Like, we think about it with immigrants too, like if they would just assimilate, if they would just fit in, then nobody would be so upset with them, et cetera, et cetera. But you can't lie. You can't lie about who you are. You can't pretend like you don't exist. You can't pretend like what you are expressing isn't meaningful to you. You can't pretend because when you do, all you do is hurt yourself. So, excuse me. Oh no, I love these. I'm going to try to figure out who made them so that I can reach out to them because I genuinely really loved them. So, all right, next, the impetus for this whole thing. I'm gonna have to really edit this. All right, the impetus for this whole thing. I texted my friend Rob, and he said, Zines. So I went this Saturday, and these are the ones that Rob gave me. These are the magic items Rob found behind an Arby's. So Rob has like this sense of humor and creative imagination that, like, honestly, I really kind of envy. Like, he has a whimsy to the way he thinks that I just do not have. Like, everything inside of me is the weird things inside of me are not humorous and weird. They are dark and weird. Hence the name of my old thing. I love this. I love this kind of stuff. Like, this is so goofy and silly and cute and the best. Here's another great example. These are We Need Disney Princess. And each of these is basically a description of a Disney princess that is a universal monster. So there's the Dracula. There's Disney Princess Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster, sorry. There's a Disney Princess Werewolf. Wolf Princess. Disney Princess Mummy. And then this one is Disney Princess Creature from the Black Lagoon. So, yeah. It's pretty great. Really funny little descriptions. Also, Edward Gorey motif is my favorite. Another thing that Rob and I share is a love of King of the Hill. This is a wonderful little King of the Hill fanzine that he did. That just has some great like art, some little comics. It's got the Peggy's the apple brown Peggy instead of Betty. A little mashup of Bob's Burgers and Hank Hill. Then this weird Bill Dauterive dreams in French fever dream, right? Little Boomhauer talking politics, some Monsignor Martinez, and then a King of the Hill video game, which I think is really just very cute, very fun. Love King of the Hill. Lady Bird is also a great name for the zine. Technically, I got that last year, but he was offering it up this year again too, so I thought I'd share it. This is the Zine of Nod. It's a little zine he made about Vampire the Masquerade. Just a quick description. If you haven't played Vampire the Masquerade, it's definitely like one of the most role-play of role-playing games. It like combat does happen. No, GG. Combat does happen, but it's not necessary all the time. There's a lot of like true role playing in it. So Vampire is very fun, but it's also very gothy. So if we look at our Vampire playlist, it just starts with Bela Lugosi's Dead and by Bauhaus and Boys Don't Cry by The Cure. I'd probably add maybe some Sisters of Mercy, maybe some Susie and the Banshees. She Wants Revenge. That's kind of modern. Or some 9 Inch Nails. That's very Vampire the Masquerade-y. 9 Inch Nails. Some Ministry and Industrial. Nice. I played a lot of Vampire. I like Vampire. But these are he did some really cool plot hooks. And then he used the backs from like old Vampire, the card game, which was actually called Jihad for quite a while. And then they had to change the name after September 11th. But these were items, and I think they're funny because they tie into like other things. Like Daytona's toothpick is like from What We Do in the Shadows, and Michael's Noodles is from what is that dumb 80s vampire movie? It's coming up in a couple pages, so I'll flip it. Some more cool plot hooks, and then this page that I was just about to talk about, Lost Boys, is the movie I couldn't remember. But I love this, like a recommendation of like movies that are super cool that are vampire centric. The 3 on this page that I would really recommend are Near Dark, He Never Died, and Kronos. Very good movies. But yeah, that was his cool like Vampire the Masquerade, and then some like resources that you can find online. And then finally, One of the things that I love about Rob the most is he puts out this email zine called Pneumatic Tube, and this is just a physical copy of it. And it's just kind of talking about how he likes to just kind of make connections with people and like finding ways to like kind of get away from algorithms, like defining what we're intaking and just making real connections with real people. So he put like his favorite joke that he found in a school book one time. He has this amazing recipe for Rob's Brazilian lemonade, or limeade, I mean, which is actually real. It says lemonade, but it's limeade because it's made with limes. Jeez, Rob. Rob's actually who I'm going to be interviewing next weekend, I hope. Gigi. A Craigslist ad about problem with raccoons. This Lana Del Rey joke that I think is super dumb, but made me laugh. And then some websites that he has worth a damn. He stapled this kind of funky to me, but that's just me. So he has Archive, Radio, A Dark Room, Double Sweet Games, GFC Global, Reddit Obscure Media, Kotke, KOTTKE.org, one of the oldest blogs on the internet, and Mental Floss. I don't know, fun stuff. But also, there is the QR for Pneumatic Tube. See if I can get it to focus. Focus. There it is. Boom. All right. But yeah, there you go. There's a picture of Rob. He's my bud. All right. This is why I had to eat dinner before I did this. This is sandwiches I've been thinking about lately. I remember talking to this lady, but I do not remember her name. And it's not on the zine. So that sucks. But this is pretty fun. So this is her just describing sandwiches that she enjoys and why she enjoys them. And then these really cool, like, collage style, like, abstractions of the different sandwiches. And what's cool is there's, like, some emotional stuff. You know, this is what I feel. Like, this is what time of year I like to eat it. Some of these are, like, you know, I really enjoy X, Y, and Z during this, or I have a memory attached to it, or this is from a place. This one specifically really gets me because the Monte Cristo that she's talking about is specifically at this place here in town that makes a Monte Cristo like none other that I've ever had. Most Monte Cristos are like the ham and turkey and cheese, like kind of club, but with French toast. These are like battered and deep fried and like we're absolutely crazy, and they don't, yeah, the place isn't there anymore, but this talks about there being a food truck, so I'll have to check it out. Smoked corned beef Reuben, hard to go wrong with that. But again, like these pictures, the art of them is like really fun. They're like really, they evoke like the sense of like a sandwich, but like when you actually take a second to look at it, you realize that like they're not on anything. They're like the elements. Maybe they're like the elements of the different sandwiches just like cut out into like strips and then stacked on top of each other. Some of them just like feel like pieces of construction paper and stuff like that. It's really cool. I also like that they're willing to say, hey, like I like meat, pork, beef, chicken, but sometimes it's great to just have a veggie sandwich. And then this recipe is the one that feels the most real to me. Like, and I'm not saying none of them or other ones are real. I'm just saying this one spoke the most to me. As somebody that worked in a restaurant for a very long time, I made this sandwich, right? Just on a flat top. It's the throw bacon down, clear away some of the grease, throw your egg onto it, then put the bread on top, flip it over so it grills, put another piece, flip it over so that one grills with a piece of cheese in there somewhere. Sandwich. Like, it is the most basic, and it is like my go-to to this day. So, I don't know, good stuff. But I read that, then had to eat dinner. And then came back and read the rest of these and then made the video. So, The Reckoning Monthly. So this one is like a lot of big thoughts, right? And it's a lot of stuff that I've been thinking about. It's also kind of like glued and stapled, so it's a little hard to open, so it might be a little weird. The first article by NC Shepherd is about like de-googling and like escaping from Windows. And they wanted to share these with people, so I will share these with people. Good Lord, this is frustrating. All right, maybe do one at a time. Oh, you know what? I'll take pictures and edit them in. Maybe. I don't know. Don't worry about it. So, yeah. So this one is about just kind of separating yourself from Google and Windows because the way they run their software is, it's not great. This is an article by Orson Welles. And I think that is one of the most hilarious pseudonyms ever and would be a great roller derby name. But this is just about how psychedelics can really change like your mindset and like really help you in your life. GG. This one is Monetized World. And this one felt really weird, right? Because I'm like getting ready to make a video. But it's not monetized. I just enjoy sharing things with people. And like I said, this is kind of like my version of a zine. But like a lot of this is about like, why do we take our hobbies and turn them into like content? Why do we like try to monetize like everything that we do? For me, that's not what this is about at all. This is just about me enjoying myself and like sharing some things that I like with people, but that felt kind of weird to read as I was working on it. This is a quick review of East of Eden by John Steinbeck that made me want to read it. It's a really good book, or a really good sounding book that I haven't read. I've read a few Steinbeck books, but not that one. And this one is basically just like a few paragraphs on why is Elon Musk still a thing? How have we not gotten rid of him? Sounds like the dogs next door have escaped and are probably lashing out at another dog, if you can hear that in the background. All right, a couple more to go, and then we will wrap this section up. But this one I thought was really cool. This is The Life and Death of Whitman Walterman, and it's by Cicada Suede. This one has a content warning for it already. So we'll start flipping through it. So this is really an interesting one because it's basically like a comics with an X, or like an underground comic, but like done with today's sensibilities, right? So there's like a lot of things in here that for a lot of people would be considered risque. Like this guy kind of just getting pushed around and experiencing a lot of depression. Like he has this body dysmorphia. Like in this one, he talks about how these shapes on their heads are not ears, the people's ears. They're like tumors that are caused, in the mouse world by the experiments that are being run on them. But he doesn't like how they look. He feels like they make him stand out, even though they kind of make him look like everybody else. But, really playing with like kind of subverting like your expectations of like what a cartoon is, like how, what kind of subject matter they talk about, like what a comic book is, and really dealing with this guy's like depression and anxiety and like lack of motivation to like do things like work or experience, life kind of in any way, shape or form, and just, it feels really, really intense unless you've read a lot of like R. Crumb, or like I've put Mike Diana's Boiled Angel into my brain, right? So this stuff is really good, really well drawn, and really taps into like that kind of like bleak sense of like foreboding that like day-to-day life can cause. But like for me, and again, I know that a content warning is for the person that it's for, not necessarily for everyone. But for me, this feels so calm for like an underground comic, because I'm used to seeing and reading such crazy, crazy crap in underground comics. So this is the last one I want to share, and the last one I got. I did get some art and some buttons and some stickers and stuff, but I don't need to go through all that. I just wanted to share the zines mostly. This one is from a local bookstore called Midnight Oil. I really love them. But what's really cool about this is these are like beginner's guides to like collecting books, right? So understanding like, what does book collecting mean? Like, is it just about buying expensive books? Like, where can you find books? Like, not just like where can you find like books in general, but where can you find good books? Like, how do you evaluate whether a book is worth it or not? Like, how do you take care of a collection? What is it all about? Why would we do it? How do you grow, etc., etc. It references Carter's ABC for book collectors, which is something that I used quite a bit when I was doing reselling stuff. And on top of it, they made a beginner's guide to first editions, right? So this is really cool because this kind of shows you how to like tell what a number line is, like what first published means, like what to make of a book if it doesn't have like a clear statement of when it was made out, like why things would matter, like what publisher statements and codes are, like how to tell what the condition is, what a first edition is, right? And all that sort of stuff. And then these common mistakes. Book club editions, if you're a book collector, you've come into that where it looks like a first print, everything inside is right, but like the shape, like the actual like paper size of the book is a little weird, and maybe the binding seems cheap. A lot of times it's because it's a book club edition. So that's really cool. Then there's a third one, and what really sucks is there was one that's missing, but this is the Beginner's Guide to Antiquarian Books, and I thought this was the most fascinating because this is about books that are, depending on who you talk to, but in general, older than like 1900, typically even older than 1800. But like this has like a history of like how books were made, what fakes are like, what a facsimile is, like kind of how to look at the evidence and figure out like how old a book is when they're not labeled. And then some of these cool physical features. Like one of the things I really found fascinating is like the idea of vellum as paper, right? Like an animal product paper. And then understanding that if you are going to like collect aquarian or antiquarian books and like older books, that like understanding that like the condition is important, but there is an understanding among collectors that like if something is truly old, like it will not necessarily be in perfect condition. So, and a quick thing about why you should do it. So, oh no, it's really good stuff. Midnight Oil Bookstore is definitely a place to check out. Here in Greeley. So, all right. Well, that was the zines that I got through. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the phone zine when I come back, and then we'll wrap up the show. All right, welcome back. I'm going to talk a little bit about the phone zine, like just in general, but I think this is going to be kind of like the phone zine / wrap it up. And a lot of this will have footage of me working on those phone zines. So the project, that came up from Struthless, really cool idea. Just really went in for it, strapped one to my phone. Within a few days, I'd gone through like 2 of them. Just finished up my 3rd one today, so like that's 3 in like right around a week, a little bit less. So they're really fun to do, and they really, I've been kind of using them like an unlock screen, like an extra unlock screen. But what I find is that I'll go to like unlock my phone, the little zine is in the way, and I'll think to myself, I don't want to work on this right now. So I just won't like do anything, right? Like, I still use my phone a lot. Like I still fart around on it. I still scroll, YouTube and ground news and shit like that. But it just doesn't feel like as central to like everything that I'm doing every day in the same way that it did. So it's nice to kind of have that. The other thing is it like gives me a place to like just have some thoughts, to just put down whatever is like popping into my brain, like the same way that you would put like a Facebook like status or something up. You can just go Gigi, you're such a turd. You can just go through and and write down what you're thinking. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for like the whole world to see, right? It doesn't have to be the mistake that you made like 10 years from now because you were upset at some dude in traffic and you wrote down just like, I really wish that guy would crash, you know, or something, which is not something that I wrote down, but you get what I'm saying. So we're going to definitely put footage of Miss Gigi in there, huh? Oh, yeah. Such a good kitty. So hopefully the purring's not too crazy loud. But, you know, the first one literally was just me writing about what it was. The second one just ended up being kind of some thoughts on what was happening during the day. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I kind of want to, you know, write around some themes. So the other thing I noticed is that they take a little bit of time to make if I want to make them, you know, clip arty and decorative. So I made a bunch of them ahead of time, which is the footage that you guys are watching right now, right? So I made one that specifically feels like it's going to be a little bit about art history. I made one specifically that's going to be about like anti-fascist art because I love a lot of the art that surrounds like that, especially like the Dadists that like, and it's so fascinating how like the styles of like the Dadists like turned into like the thematic styles of like, you know, people like Guy Voucher and like bands like Crass and, you know, like that kind of aesthetic of like cut and paste and DIY that like has morphed into like what's going on, you know, artistically in post-punk and like, you know, I don't know, bands like oh man, what is the name of that one band? But like bands like Model Actress that like really are putting together like very art music, for lack of a better term. Oh, man, Postmartyr is the other band I'm trying to think of. This like very like intense like DIY punk ethos, but like really strong post-punk vibes, and like their artistic like scope when it comes to like their merchandising is like very curated and nuanced in like a way that I really appreciate. So I don't know, it's cool. Like I love that about anti-fascist art and like the Dadists and just kind of how that's all evolved over time. But yeah, just in general, like I've been really enjoying doing them, and yeah, I plan to keep doing them. And I also I'm building my brain up to having a thought. This is new phone, so I had forgotten to silence it. So I'm building myself up to working about having a thought of maybe doing a website. So I don't know. I might do something like that. But if I do, those will be available for you to pick up. So I'll be sure to scan them so you can just check them out. So I don't know. I don't really have much else to say. Like, I hope you enjoyed this, like, it'll probably be kind of like time-lapse footage of me working on my zines. But, and this here's Gigi. She's my sweet thing, right? Such a good cat. Past that, I don't know. I'm not a very interesting guy. I'm just interested in interesting things. And if I hated you, you would know. Say God luck and good speed. I'm just going to try to throw it on there. You happy now that you're interrupted? Oh, yes. Yes, so cute. So cute. So pretty. Oh, pretty. Pretty, pretty. Oh. Oh, man. This public domain movie looks crazy. It's like the Night Stalker killer. Like, I think I'm gonna layer Weedeater over all of this and see what happens. What do you think? What do you think, Jesus H. Christ Allen? I've been a very good cat. I didn't want to get another cat, but here we are. And now you live in my room. And I like you.